slaughtering 13 sinister demons. The cursed nightmares that reveal hidden horrors outside Crestwood Hollow. The wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers of dread. In this seemingly perfect town, 13 sinister demons lurked, feeding on the unspoken fears of its residents. For Sarah, a 35-year-old single mother, the threat felt all too real as she glanced over her shoulder on her walk home from the diner. The streetlights flickered, uncertain, like her heart beating against her ribs. Missing persons posters plastered the mailboxes. Neighbors wore tight smiles. Yet in the back of her mind, ancient tales clawed at her from the shadows, tales of terror that had festered in the forgotten corners of Crestwood Hollow. Returning home after yet another grueling shift, the air heavy with unease, Sarah stepped into a world cloaked in darkness. The lights pulsed, dim, bright, then dark, infected, as if the house itself was alive, aware of something stirring just out of reach. Shadows danced in her peripheral vision, while the silence screamed louder than the conversations she overheard at the diner, fear snaking through the community like poison in their veins. Taking a deep breath, she brushed it off. She had to focus on Lily. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered to her sleeping daughter, tucking in the blanket tightly. But as she drifted toward the kitchen, her heart raced. The walls seemed to breathe, stretching tight, and then releasing her, as shadows pooled in the corners like viscous ink. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her mind raced back to the whispers of her neighbors, the way Mrs. Becker tightly drew her curtains, as if shielding something more sinister than mere privacy. The way her voice trembled when sharing mundane gossip raised an uneasy specter of doubt. Nights filled with dark sounds threatened to eclipse the comforting guise of suburban life. Each relentless creak echoed like the footsteps of the recent disappearances, shadows having morphed into tangible dread. Sleepless nights brought bizarre dreams of familiar faces twisting into grotesques, bodies mangled, and voices melding in a hellish symphony. Shadows began to linger in her living room, forming shapes that reached for her a suffocating darkness, whispering her name in a way that felt hauntingly familiar. Unease twisted in her stomach like vines, choking off breath. One night, she found Lily lost in the yard, uttering cryptic phrases as she roamed the shadows, eyes glazed. Her heart hammered against her chest like a reminder. Something was wrong, and she couldn't protect her daughter from the nightmares creeping closer. When authorities scoffed at her fears, dismissing them as figments brought about by strain, Sarah felt her grip on sanity slip. The long shadow of night settled over Crestwood Hollow, and as she stared into her twisting reflection, fear coiling inside, she realized the demons were no longer confined to tales. It was her own community, throbbing with secrets beneath the surface, darkness palpable in the air. Something was coming for them, for her. Would she confront the lurking horrors before they consumed everything she held dear? With a heart pounding against the encroaching silence, she stepped into the dark, her hand reaching for the door, the threshold between safety and nightmare. What awaited her in the shadows? The cold metal of the doorknob sent a shiver down Sarah's spine as she turned it. Goosebumps erupted along her arms, and a deep breath failed to steady her racing heart. The darkness outside seemed to beckon her, an invisible hand coaxing her into something unknown. With a final glance back at Lily, who slept innocently, unaware of the horrors surrounding them, Sarah stepped into the abyss. The gust of wind swept through the open door, slamming it shut behind her. The sound echoed in the night, as if the house itself had sealed her fate. She turned slowly, straining to see through the dense shadows that shrouded Crestwood Hollow. Each breath felt heavy, like inhaling fog thick with secrets. She had to move forward. There was no retreating now. The street was silent. Too silent. The eerie calm buzzed in her ears, filling her with a sense of foreboding. Flickering streetlights danced against the asphalt, casting shifting shapes that twisted and writhed. Sarah hesitated, caught between instinct and dread. That S when she heard it, a faint whispering carried by the wind, the sounds twisting into her name. Sarah, her pulse quickened. She strained her ears, trying to make sense of the voice. Was it a trick? Her imagination? She stepped deeper into the gloom, the shadows pulsing around her with a life of their own. The whispers grew louder, echoing the inner fears she had harbored. Run. The urgency in the voice felt less like a warning and more like a command. She turned abruptly, scanning the ghostly paths of the familiar neighborhood that suddenly seemed so foreign. The houses loomed like silent sentinels, masks of indifference hiding the terrors within. As she walked, each step brought forth a deeper dread. A scrape of something, a footstep, snapped behind her. She spun around, heart racing, but nothing was there. Just the suffocating darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. Then she spotted a silhouette at the edge of the tree line, framed in the flickering light. It stood unnaturally still, waiting, watching. Shadows cloaked its form, twisting like smoke. Fear lanced through her. The stories of the townsfolk rattling in her mind grew louder. Looping into madness, Lily's face flashed before her eyes, innocent, yet fragile. No more running. Sarah's heart flared with resolve. I'm not afraid of you. The figure moved slightly, and she could almost see a smile curling where a mouth should be. Its eyes glinted, sharp as knives. Are you sure? Without waiting for a response, Sarah began to run. The demon followed, gliding swiftly through the night, its laughter chilling her to the bone. She raced toward the town square, where lamplights offered scant comfort against the encroaching fear. Help! She screamed, but the words dissolved into the night, swallowed by its sinister hush. She darted past the mailboxes still plastered with faded missing persons posters, each face a reminder of the lurking danger. Just as she reached the square, she stumbled upon a group of familiar faces gathered near the fountain, a mesh of neighbors transfixed by something she couldn't see. They wore the same tight smiles, their eyes locked on a darkened spot that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lily's voice echoed in her mind. Find me, save me, Lily. The name tore from her lips, but only silence responded. The ground shook as the figure emerged from behind the shadows, the crowd parting as if in reverence. Each person's gaze remained unbroken, drawn to the darkness, transfixed with terror. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. They weren't just watching, they were worshipping the darkness. What have you done? She gasped, horror crashing into her like waves. The figure slowly raised its hand, beckoning her forward. Join us, or lose everything. The weight of fear pressed down hard on her shoulders. Would she stand and fight, or would she succumb to the ancient pull of the darkness? Swallowing hard, she took a step forward, but the ground trembled again. The sky darkened further. She felt a presence behind her, thicker than shadows, wrapping around her like cold chains. Was this the moment where it all ended? A scream echoed in the distance, a chilling confirmation that the nightmares were not just tales. How far would she go to save her daughter, and at what cost? The whispering intensified, wrapping around Sarah like spider silk, each strand tightening her throat. Panic surged as she felt the crowd's eyes drilling into her, their focus unyielding. They were in a trance, each face twisted in adoration for the figure emerging from the shadows. She couldn't breathe. Sarah, the voice, now clearer, twisted through the air with a velvety smoothness. It lured her, seductive but deadly. An urge to descend into that abyss tugged at her thoughts, but she fought back, her mind racing for any way to escape. Get away from her, she shouted, her voice breaking against the darkness. But the laughter frothing from the figure echoed in response, far too delighted, too alive. Join us. It echoed again, each word dripping with sinister promise. Sarah backed away, heart pounding. Each neighbor in the crowd mirrored a manic glee, their faces remnants of the people she once knew. Mrs. Jenkins, the kind elderly woman who always indulged Lily with cookies, now smiling blankly. Simon, the friendly mailman, his eyes glazed over but the smile plastered on. These were not the faces of her friends. They were masks, skins stretched over something monstrous. Overwhelmed, she turned. The ground beneath her feet muttered, shifting, slithering with an energy that made her dizzy. The shadows reached for her, clawing at her thoughts, a hungry mist clawing up her legs. Help! A voice whimpered from behind her. It was Lily. The sound shattered Sarah's heart like glass. Lily! She whipped around, her eyes scanning the crowd, searching desperately. There, nestled in the embrace of shadows, she saw her daughter. Lily's hair glowed in the dim light, but her eyes were dark, reflecting the terror that surrounded them. "Save me, Mom." Lily's voice trembled, a fragile wisp that floated on the air. The figure turned, enjoying the chaos, pivoting with an unsettling grace. "You can't save her," it taunted, "unless you're willing to pay the price." The price? How could she? The years spent protecting Lily flooded her with strength. Sarah took another step back, trying to breathe past the fear. "You don't own us." The shadows recoiled as if stung, the figure squinting down at her, its form rippling like disturbed water. "They don't belong to you, Sarah. They're mine. Join this eternal night." But she wouldn't. She couldn't. Drawing on everything she was, she turned and dashed toward Lily, desperation fueling her legs. The crowd parted like water, their smiles flickering, confusion woven into their features for the first time. Grabbing Lily's hand, she squeezed tight. "We need to run. Now." But as they surged forward, the grasp of cold hands locked around Sarah's wrists, ripping her back. "No," she screamed, feeling the darkness surge, swallowing her resolve. The laughter crescendoed, mingling with her own. "You can't escape," it sang. "Every step brings you closer to your end. This place, it's alive with despair." Heart racing, Sarah felt the world twist around her. Abruptly, she and Lily were thrust into a different reality, surrounded by twisted trees that bled shadows. Each tree bore faces, crying and laughing in despair, rooting them deeper into a nightmare. Terror blazed as Sarah clutched her daughter closer. Just then, an oily murmur slithered through the air. "Join me, Sarah. Surrender or be lost forever." The forest echoed back the answer, becoming a cacophony of voices, shrill and haunting, as they drowned out the edges of her awareness. She had to do something. But what? Suddenly, beyond the trees, a flicker of light caught her eye. A sanctuary, a way out. Could they make it before time ran out? The ominous laughter rose, blending with the wind as it taunted. "Flee, but remember, you may escape the darkness. But it never forgets you." With Lily's hand firmly in hers, Sarah clenched her jaw against fear and bolted toward the light, the shadows snapping at her heels. What lay beyond that glow? Hope or despair? Would they be ready for whatever awaited them at the edge of the woods? They sprinted through the forest, the flickering light ahead growing brighter, clearer. Each frantic step felt like a battle against invisible hands clawing at her back, as if the trees themselves resented their escape. The whispers crescendoed, turning into a chorus of terrible truths that threatened to shatter her sanity. "Sarah, your past will consume you." The words sliced through her mind, each syllable punctuated by memories, fragments of guilt, regrets. Every choice she made woven into the fabric of her being, now twisted into shackles to pull her back. "Mom, keep running." Lily's voice broke through the haze, a lifeline amidst the chaos. Sarah tightened her grip on her daughter's hand, heart racing, as they crashed through the dense underbrush. Branches whipped against her skin, tearing at her clothes, but she pressed forward. The light shimmered just ahead, a distant beacon of hope. They neared the clearing. Shadows writhed and pulsed like a living thing, trying to draw them in. Suddenly, a bone-chilling shriek erupted from the depths of the trees, causing Sarah to falter. The sound was both familiar and utterly alien, echoing with an agonizing cacophony of tormented souls. Time stopped. An icy grip wrapped around her throat, paralyzing her. In that moment, she saw them, figures emerging from the depths of the gloom, their identities obscured but their malice evident. They moved with a fluidity that defied human form, their eyes glowing like pits of darkness, consuming all light around them. "No," Sarah gasped. A chorus of haunting laughter erupted, booming between the trees. Each figure mirrored the others, a twisted reflection of something she should recognize, but couldn't. They were haunting memories made flesh, the artifacts of unresolved horrors she had buried deep. "Join us," they sang, voices mingling in a haunting harmony. "Be part of the night." With renewed urgency, Sarah pulled Lily closer, forcing herself to break free from the spellbinding terror. She turned toward the light again, lungs burning and legs screaming as the glowing escape loomed nearer. But the figures erupted from the shadows, weaving their way like a dark stream beside them. They reached out, fingers clawing at the air, their laughter growing louder, blending seamlessly with the rustling leaves and crackling twigs. "Face your demons, Sarah," one hissed, an echo of a voice she thought she'd buried long ago her father. "Mom, please," Lily pleaded, eyes wide with fear, as they stumbled over roots and rocks. Just a little further. And then, the clearing opened up, wide and inviting like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. A radiant glow covered the ground with an ethereal shimmer. It felt safe, but so deceitful. A sense of foreboding wrapped around Sarah again, clenching her heart tight. "Step into the light," a voice called, eerily inviting. Even now, it held the same velvet draw, beckoning like a siren. "Mom, don't," Lily exclaimed, sensing her hesitation. "We can't trust it." Sarah hesitated, caught between the light's promise and the darkness that threatened to engulf them. The shadows shrieked in frustration, sending a wave of terror through her spine. "Join us," the words rolled through the air again, wrapping around her like a shroud. What would happen if they stepped into the light? Would it be salvation or doom? Hard in her throat, Sarah's eyes darted between the grasping shadows and the beckoning glow. "Lily," she breathed, steeling herself. "We have to choose." In that moment, the choice loomed like a monstrous shadow eclipsing any hope. And then, from the depths of the shadowy crowd, a guttural roar erupted, drowning her thoughts. "You cannot escape your fate." The ground trembled beneath them, and in that instant, as the light blazed brighter, a shattering realization struck. There was no escape. Sarah could feel the darkness closing in, teeth bared in a hungry grin. Something was coming for them, something they had yet to face. As she held Lily close, the world spun, and the horrifying laughter filled the air. A choice had to be made, and time was slipping away. Would they dare to leap into the unknown or stand their ground against the terrors that awaited? The shadows lunged. The light flickered, and Sarah knew, whatever happened next would either damn them or save them forever. The shadows surged, a wave of darkness hungry for their souls, ready to consume them whole. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, and in that second, every instinct screamed to run into the light. But doubt twisted in her gut, anchoring her feet to the ground. "Mom, no," Lily shouted, panic spilling from her voice. The darkness wrapped around them, tendrils reaching out like desperate claws, while the laughter morphed into a sinister symphony. "You think you can escape?" The figures hissed, their voices weaving a chilling tapestry of dread. "Stick together," Sarah cried out, trying to block out the mounting terror. She yanked on Lily's arm, ready to make a choice, any choice. All that mattered was survival. "Step into the light." The voice beckoned again, sweet and sickeningly smooth, as though the light itself had turned malicious. But just as a morbid temptation rose within her, a new sound sliced through the chaos. A low rumbling, like thunder rolling in the distance. The ground shook, sending up puffs of dirt. They weren't alone. Something was emerging from the light. A figure materialized, tall and imposing, silhouetted against the blinding glow. His features were sharp, almost predatory, eyes gleaming from the depths like twin stars consumed by an insatiable black hole. "Sarah," the figure called, voice hauntingly familiar. It reverberated through her, a strange comfort in this storm of dread. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice cracking. The darkness hesitated, the figures recoiling as the light solidified around the stranger. "I am your salvation," he stated, confidence draping his tone. The shadows trembled, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah dared to believe. But behind him, the dark beings twisted and writhed, their eyes narrowing, their laughter dripping with malice. "No, join us," they howled, the symphony of their voices calling her back to their wicked embrace. "Mom," Lily cried, yanking on her sleeve, eyes wide with terror. "We can't trust him." "Don't let them in, Sarah," the figure urged, stepping into the clearing. Though he seemed almost ethereal, there was something unnerving about him, like he wore the shadows as a cloak. Sarah's heart raced. "What do you want from us?" "To free you from the past." He stepped closer, extending a hand as if to lift the veil of horror clouding her mind. "Your fears bind you, but I can sever those chains." But that call felt like a fork in the road. The shadows roared, furious at this interruption, a cacophony of agony and rage. Face your fate. They lunged again, and the air crackled with their wrath. Lily's grip tightened around Sarah's hand. Don't let him trick you. Fingers curling into fists, Sarah stood paralyzed, unsure where to turn. The light radiated warmth, yet its source felt wicked, like a flame promising safety but ready to burn. Behind her, the darkness swelled, always hungry, always lurking just outside of reach. They were at the precipice between light and dark, temptation forming like a razor edge. In her heart, Sarah knew whatever choice she made could seal their fate forever. Choose. The figure thundered. You have but moments. And before she could think, the ground beneath them jolted violently as shadows erupted, mouths twisting into a grotesque display that screamed for her. Mom. The blurred world spun, the shadows a dark storm swirling around them, and in that chaos, one thought remained. Could she trust her own judgment, or would this nightmare devour them all? Just then, a single shadow slipped closer, its essence faintly human. It reached out with a familiar touch. Sarah. The voice whispered in her ear, and the recognition sent chills cascading down her spine. She stumbled backward, terror clenching her gut, as she fought to comprehend the one thing she had long buried. Could they escape the truth together? In that moment, the echoes of her past crashed around her, pulling her deeper into a hell she thought she'd forsaken. The choice remained, but the truth was far more sinister than she dared to imagine. The figure in the light beckoned again, urgency crackling in his voice. You need to choose. It's your only chance. But Sarah's heart raced, thudding painfully against her ribs. Confusion blurred her thoughts, while the shadows lurked, hissing. They were alive, shifting and writhing like serpents, hungry for flesh and fear. Sarah. The familiar voice again, insistent and desperate. She turned towards the shadow, every instinct telling her to run, but a flicker of recognition held her captive. She focused through the swirling darkness, fighting against the panic suffocating her like a heavy fog. Mom. Lily's small, terrified voice broke through the cloud of dread. Don't let it take you. The figure in light stepped forward, shimmering as if he were made of stars, his hand outstretched. Trust me. You have to remember. It's the only way to break free. The shadows shrieked, a deafening, layered chorus echoing their rage. You belong to us. The truth is in the dark. The voices clawed at her ears, each word tinged with venom. Please, don't listen to him. Lily pulled harder, her small face a mask of terror. With trembling hands, Sarah reached for the figure, feeling the warmth radiating from him. But doubt gnawed at her. She remembered the stories whispered in the dark, tales her mother told her about things that could be seen only in the light, and the dangers of trusting what seemed good. Suddenly, the earth shifted again, the ground quaking violently beneath their feet. The shadows surged forward, mouths gaping with jagged teeth, a hungry darkness ready to swallow them whole. Choose, or you'll lose everything. The figure's voice thundered, vibrating with urgency. Each heartbeat warred within her. The familiar shadow swirled closer, coalescing into an eerie yet recognizable shape. Sarah, I'm here. I'm always with you. You just need to let me back in. A cold dread seeped into her soul, and the memories came flooding back. Flickers of laughter, fragments of warmth, moments she had buried deep. Was it even possible to face the truth without crumbling into dust? Mom. Lily's voice rose above the din of shadows, raw and broken. Sweat dripped down Sarah's back, her breath shallow. The choice felt suffocating. The light offered a path, enticing yet terrifying. The shadows demanded devotion, fearful, seductive, their promises laced with betrayal. Please, Mom, don't forget us. Lily's voice cracked, layering the fear in Sarah's heart. Desperation gripped her. I can't choose. The figure's expression flickered, frustration merging with sorrow. You must face your demons, my love. Don't let them steal your power. With a deafening roar, the shadows rushed forward, their forms distorting grotesquely as they screamed for her. Join us. Join us. A choice loomed ahead, dark and relentless. She glimpsed shattered glass reflecting pieces of her past, the love, the fear, the truths unspoken. The ground trembled again, shifting like the very fabric of reality breaking apart. Remember me, the shadow's plea echoed against the chaos. In that moment, with the shadows crashing against her, Sarah felt her resolve slip away, her grasp on reality fraying. Familiar warmth flooded her thoughts, tugging her uneasily. Could she sacrifice everything she feared for a past she thought buried? A shrill scream erupted from behind her. Mom! At once, the haunting faces of those who betrayed her filled her mind. The ground splintered violently as she grappled for a choice, the fabric of her reality tearing apart. Would she walk into the light or embrace the darkness? In that split second, the shadows lunged forward, and she braced herself ready to either shatter into pieces or reclaim the hidden horror that was her truth. A blinding flash enveloped her, and everything went black. What lay on the other side? What choices awaited when the light faded completely? The darkness swallowed Sarah whole, a vast, suffocating void where time stretched and twisted. She felt weightless, as if floating in a vacuum, yet the dread was a heavy cloak tightening around her chest. The cacophony of shrieks faded into an eerie silence, making her heart pound louder. Then, a flicker, just a pinprick of light. It pulsed softly, a heartbeat echoing through the abyss. She instinctively moved toward it, hope igniting in her chest. "Lily," she called, her voice trembling and swallowed by shadows. "Please, where are you?" Again, the warmth enveloped her, spreading like tendrils of sunlight breaking through clouds, and she felt a presence shift nearby. The figure from before, still shimmering but now distorted, appeared before her, but something was off. The safety she felt was murky. It felt like looking at a familiar face through a cracked mirror. "Sarah," it whispered, its voice a haunting melody that sent shivers down her spine. "You've awakened." "What where's Lily?" Panic edged into her tone, pulling her back to reality. The figure gestured, and suddenly, the scene shifted. Crumbling walls surrounded them. Echoing with the whispers of the shadows, each murmur was a sinister caress. Images flashed, a crumpled doll, a wrecked house, a wavering mirror reflecting terror. "They miss you too. They want you, they're hungry." With newfound clarity, Sarah realized the truth. This was where nightmares birthed, an altar built on her unspoken fears and hidden regrets. Shapes lurked in the corners of her vision, darting like fish beneath a surface she dared not disturb. "Choose," the figure implored again, but its form wavered, flickering uncertainly. "You must confront them." "Confront who?" she stammered. "The sins, the shadows of your past." In a heartbeat, the darkness converged, morphing into twisted visages, faces she recognized but had tried to forget. They snickered and howled, manifestations of her guilt, betrayal etched into their features. "Are you ready to face the truth, Sarah?" One shadow hissed, an echo of her mother's tormented voice. The air grew dense, heavy with memories that clawed at her throat. Images of lost love, betrayal, each second felt like an eternity. "I can't." But the shadows closed in, their hands reaching for her. "You belong to us. You cannot escape." "Mom." Lily's voice emerged from the din, faint yet piercing. "Fight. Please don't let them take you." Suddenly, the walls pulsed, vibrating with life, and she felt a thrum beneath her feet. The ground trembled in response to her fear, but within that fear, a flicker of anger ignited. If she was going to face whatever haunted her, then she'd do it on her terms. "No," Sarah screamed, her voice piercing through the cacophony. "I won't let you consume me." The shadows recoiled, a ripple of confusion running through them. "You dare defy?" With an outpouring of strength, she fought back. Memories flooded her mind, joy intertwined with sorrow. She had not just lost, she had loved fiercely. Sarah took a shaky step forward, calling for every ounce of that love to fuel her. "Lily, I'm coming." But the shadows roared. Their hunger escalation drowned her resolve in a tide of despair. They lunged toward her, teeth bared, eyes glowing with malice. As they seized her, Sarah felt a stinging pain at her side, a reminder of every choice she had made and every truth she'd buried deep. Everything turned red, the shadows consuming her, and then nothingness. What awaited her in this terrifying void? Was she truly gone, or merely on the brink of reclaiming the memories buried in darkness? The light flickered ominously. She could feel the presence of something stirring in the depths. With a shudder, Sarah realized she wasn't alone. Who else had been trapped in this nightmare? And would they rise to face it together or perish as shadows beckoned once more? Fingers of shadow slithered around Sarah, as if tracing her very essence. She could feel their cold touch ripple over her skin, a chilling reminder of all the things she wanted to leave behind. Then the darkness cracked, a violent split that illuminated the void for just a moment. She blinked, eyeing her surroundings as the echoes of her nightmares began to materialize, swirling like smoke. "Help me," a voice whimpered, just beyond the edge of vision. Sarah strained to see, but was met only by the emptiness of the void. The fear clawed deeper, a primal instinct forcing her heart to race. "Who is there?" she called out, desperation creeping into her voice. "It's too late for me," the voice replied, disembodied and mournful. "But you can still escape." "Escape? How?" Sarah felt the anxiety building, each breath a struggle, each heartbeat a reminder of her vulnerability. "Face your demons. You have to confront them, or be crushed by their hunger." As if summoned by her words, the shadows shifted. They morphed into shapes, grotesque figures rising from the formless night, twisted smiles painted on their faces. A familiar figure stepped forward, the face of a friend she had lost in a reckless moment, his eyes wide with a pleading that echoed through her conscience. "Jack." Panic gripped her. "Is that really you? Do you regret it?" he asked, stepping closer. "Do you remember that night? You wanted to forget, no?" Sarah took a step back, shame lacing her voice. "I didn't want it to end like this." "Then why are you here?" Jack pressed, his form flickering, vulnerable to the shadows gathering around them. "You're a prisoner of your own making. Will you ever fight for what you lost or surrender?" The shadows writhed with hunger, black tendrils grasping at her ankles, urging her to collapse under their weight. "Fight!" Lily's voice surged through her once again, cutting like a beacon through the fog of despair. "Mom, you have to push through." A spark ignited within Sarah, fueled by Lily's unwavering spirit. She summoned up memories of laughter, summer days, the warmth of sunlight, and the tender hug of a child's embrace. Those flashes gave her strength. She breathed deeply, resisting the pull of the shadows. "You will not have me," she declared, hot determination replacing her earlier fear. "I've loved too fiercely to let you win." The shadows recoiled as if struck, confusion sweeping over them like a gust of wind. In that fleeting moment, Sarah surged forward, pulling strength from every ounce of love she had ever known. The darkness convulsed, shadowy hands retreating as she barreled through their ranks, fighting back tears and screams of grief. "Where are you, Lily?" she shouted, her voice mingling with anguish. "Behind you." Lily's voice echoed through the chaos, fierce and resolute. Sarah whirled, catching a faint glimmer, a silhouette spinning in the dark. "Lily!" she exclaimed, moments of fear collapsing under the weight of determination. But just then, the shadows exploded into a furious cacophony, lunging toward her from every angle. As they closed in, she felt an icy grip wrap around her heart. The temperature plummeted, and she realized with dawning horror that they were there to claim more than just her fears. They wanted her soul. In a moment of desperation, she reached out with her heart's memory, the flicker of love against the consuming panic. With a scream, she dove into the fray, hoping against hope to find her daughter and escape the clutches of the dark. Would her love be enough to shield her from the horrors that awaited? Or would they consume her entirely, leaving nothing but shadows behind? The pulse of the void throbbed, and she was pulled deeper into its heart, a chilling whisper trailing behind. "Welcome to your new reality." The shadows crackled like dry leaves, their sharp edges glinting with a sinister promise. As Sarah pushed onwards, her heart thundered in her chest, each beat a war cry against the encroaching darkness. A flicker of light revealed twisted forms writhing behind her, chasing her with relentless hunger. She could not look back. She had to keep moving. "Lily!" she screamed, her voice drowning in the cacophony of despair. The fabric of the void felt slick with dread, each step sending shocks of cold through her body. "Mom!" The response shot through the air like an arrow, filled with urgency. It pulled at her, wavering between hope and the suffocating dread that hung over them. "I'm right here. Don't give up." But the shadows whispered honeyed lies, their voices like a surreal melody tinged with malice. "She's just a figment, a remnant of your broken past," they taunted. "You'll never find her." "No," Sarah shouted, shaking her head defiantly. "You're all echoes of my fear. You have no hold on me. With every ounce of willpower, she forged ahead, memories fueling her spirit. Laughter at the park, Lily's tiny hands clasped around her fingers, the warmth of her spirit guiding her through the dark. But the shadows swarmed closer, forming a coherent mass fueled by every regret and every loss that clung to her heart like a vice. A wave of darkness surged toward her, a tsunami of anguish. She felt claws scraping against her soul, ripping, tearing, trying to expose her innermost fears. You'll never escape what you truly are, they hissed, their chant echoing in an unholy harmony. Yet, just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, a sudden flash filled the air, a burning light breaking through, illuminating a small alcove in the darkness. Mom, this way. Lily's voice led her like a beacon through a storm. Sarah sprinted toward the light, grasping at it, heart racing with hope. But with every step, the shadows screeched, a blood-curdling cacophony that clawed at her being. They lashed out like angry spirits, each strike filled with the weight of memories that made her blood run cold. Remember him? Remember the guilt? A distorted figure flickered among them, a monstrous distortion of Jack, his face a mask of betrayal and despair. You didn't save me. Sarah, you let me die? Shut up, she yelled, pain ripping through her. This isn't real. You're not him. But their grip tightened around her heart, squeezing tighter, suffocating every ounce of hope she clung to. Then, as if from a dream, she stumbled upon the soothing warmth of a hand grasping hers, tiny yet fierce. Lily stood there, illuminated by the fading light, her eyes shining with terror but steadfast in resolve. Let us go, Mom. We can do this. Sarah felt a surge of raw energy, ignited by Lily's unwavering spirit. The shadows shuddered at the sight, retreating reluctantly like dark water before a flame. Together they pushed through, breathless, voices intertwined, drowning out the haunting melody of despair that rose to consume them. The light enveloped them, tearing at the darkness. But just as they felt the pull of safety, the void shivered. A final, bone-chilling roar echoed behind them. You can't hide from what you've done, it's only just begun. With the shadows clawing at her heels, Sarah braced herself. They were nearing the edge, but the darkness was relentless, encircling her like a snake ready to strike. Desperation bubbled in her throat as the light trembled, flickering like a dying star. Just before the final plunge into obscurity, she felt a shadow breaking through a massive form that loomed, ready to consume everything. Are you prepared to confront the true terror within? The question hung in the air, heavy like smoke, the darkness stretching longer behind them, ready to snare them once more. What awaited them on the other side? And would the strength of love be enough to hold back the oncoming tide? The abyss of darkness churned around Sarah and Lily, a suffocating soundscape of whispers and threats gripping the air. Every shadow felt alive, slithering closer as if to crowd out the last flickers of hope. Yet, amid the overwhelming terror, Sarah's heart surged with steadfast resolve at the sight of her daughter. Together, Sarah shouted, the words ripping from her throat with an urgency fueled by fierce love. She clasped Lily's hand tightly, drawing strength from their connection. Their path through the darkness shimmered with tendrils of light, guiding them towards a distant glimmer. Yet the shadows roared, twisting and bucking against them, eager to reclaim what they deemed theirs. You will never escape. The voices shrieked, a haunting chorus of despair, but Sarah would not back down. Hold on, Lily. We're almost there. As they raced toward the light, the warmth grew, and behind them, the shadows lunged forward, desperate to snare them within their icy grasp. Each heartbeat felt like a pulse of raw power pushing them onward. Trust me, Lily cried, her voice rising above the cacophony. I trust you, Sarah replied, her heart full of urgency. They surged forward as the light burst forth, illuminating the path with a glow that felt both fearful and divine. In that blinding brightness, Sarah felt the darkness retreating, the limbs of shadows shrinking back from the brilliance, their hisses morphing into pathetic whines. With every step, the weight in her chest lifted, the ghosts of her past finally beginning to recede. Finally, they reached the threshold of the light, a shimmering veil that seemed to breathe with possibility. Without hesitation, Sarah pressed through this barrier, pulling Lily along with her, Crossing into the untamed expanse of what felt like sanctuary, they landed on soft ground amid an endless field filled with wildflowers dancing in a warm breeze. Sunlight blanketed everything in a golden hue, stretching across the landscape like a precious memory. There were no shadows, no lurking nightmares, just peace. Mom Lily breathed, looking around, wonder painting her features. Did we win? Breathless and still shaken, Sarah knelt beside her daughter, hugging her tight. Yes, Lily. We're safe now. We faced them together. But just as the words left her lips, a familiar shadow flickered at the corner of her eye. You can't escape your truth, a voice whispered, sinister in its soothing tone. Sarah's heart lurched. It was the dark figure from the night. But this time there was no fear, only understanding. No, Sarah said firmly, eyes hard with resolve. I want to let you take us. No more running. She felt the strength of her past wash over her, the memories not as chains, but as armor. All the love, everything she fought for pulsed in her veins. The dark figure sneered. Your love is weak against the forces of despair. On the contrary, Sarah responded, standing tall. It is my greatest strength. The figure lunged forward, but before it could close the distance, a burst of light erupted from Sarah. It was not just her love, but every bond formed, every piece of her that the shadows could never touch, now solidified in radiant defiance. The figure shrank, slowly dissipating before them. You may have escaped the night, it hissed, but the shadows will always linger. Sarah stepped forward, the remnants of shadow curling and fading into nothingness. They can linger, but they no longer own me. Hand in hand with Lily, they turned their backs on the night. The sun shone brightly overhead, illuminating a path forward that shimmered with endless possibilities. Mommy, Lily said, a spark of laughter bursting forth. Can we go on an adventure? Yes, sweetheart, Sarah replied, laughter bubbling up in her chest. Let us find our story. They turned together, facing the unknown with fierce hearts. Sarah and Lily stepped through a shimmering doorway of light, hand in hand, ready to embrace the wonders that lay ahead, free at last from the burdens of the past. And never again, Sarah whispered fiercely, will fear dictate our lives. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our community alive. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything to us.